Hello everyone. Welcome to this new list of actors and actresses that I will be making. I will evaluate, analyze, and rate all films broadcast for cinema and digital platforms. I will base it on the score obtained on the best websites such as IMDb, Film Affinity, Metacritic, and Rotten Tomatoes. But I will also include my personal opinion, and it will be an excuse to review the entire filmography. It is an analysis of the acting level, prominence, and legacy, not an analysis of each film. The review of each film is found in the list of directors. After refreshing my memory and watching all the movies in the span of 2 weeks, since he participated in 47 movies, I hope for your good like and subscription to support this type of videos. Let's start. Today we analyze nothing more and nothing less than Brad Pitt. William Bradley Pitt was born on December 18, 1963 in Oklahoma, United States. While studying journalism and advertising at the University of Missouri, he began to lean and feel a lot of interest in the film industry. With strong convictions, he left university just 2 weeks after graduating to move to the cradle of cinema, Hollywood. There, he had curious jobs as a driver and mascot for El Pollo Loco. Yes, that's Brad Pitt. With these jobs, he could pay for art classes while looking for opportunities in the medium. After numerous appearances as an extra, his first appearance in the credits was at the age of 24 with the television comedy Growing Pains and then in Dallas. Later, he had supporting roles in the series Freddy's Nightmares and Head of the Class. Always taking advantage of his aesthetic side, he played roles like the boy with the pretty face. Although later he had his first role as a bad guy in the television film Too Young to Die, he plays a drug addict, manipulator, and accomplice in a crime who is sentenced to lethal injection, a real case that happened in 1982. The Dark Side of the Sun, Yugoslavian film where they opted for a young Brad, although due to the war its release had to be postponed about 10 years later. And we don't know who the genius was who had the idea of hiring one of the most physically attractive men to act 80% of the movie in a mask and a leather suit. Yes, that's Brad Pitt. This decision is justified by the plot of the film, in which he suffers from a rare skin disease, but it was not his best role and the script is quite bad. With these scores, I place it in bad cutting class. Bad movies like few others, an attempt at a horror movie about a murderer who attacks a high school. Here, young Brad couldn't do much in a completely secondary role, and with barely any appearances, he only demonstrates his physical attractiveness in few of his dialogues. Without a doubt, I rate it as bad. Happy Together, a typical romantic comedy about a serious and studious boy who meets a happy and outgoing college classmate. It is not the genre in which I most like to see Brad Pitt, I have to admit. Completely secondary role of Brad, few minutes on screen do not save this genre that was still very green. Without a doubt, I rate it as bad. Johnny Suede, hypnotic cult film with an extravagant hairstyle that served as inspiration for the creation of the famous cartoon Johnny Bravo. A young man who wants to be a rock star and is obsessed with his pair of shoes. The absurdity of the script and knowing that he is Brad Pitt push you to finish watching this movie that I thought was incredibly good. Thelma and Louise. Here a young Brad begins to rub shoulders in the big leagues, although he plays a completely secondary role and is typecast in his role as a pretty boy. Sharing the screen with great actresses and an excellent director like Ridley Scott allowed her to show herself to the world in a film that was a total success. Although its premiere was surrounded by controversies in the renowned story of rebellion and liberation from the sexist world of two friends who they decide to live a risky and courageous experience. Here the movies already have more evaluations and popularity, and without a doubt I place it in very good. A River Runs Through It. This dramatic film, directed by renowned actor Robert Redford, presents the story of two brothers who do not get along at all. Here we must highlight how the director trusts in Brad Pitt's acting skills, and not only in his appearance, interpreting good dialogues, and with intensity, he can get out of his typical role of a cute and good boy who serves his company. With these scores and reviews, I place it at very good. California. A very important role in this film for Brad Pitt, and one of the few times in his acting life where he will play the role of a bad guy. Here he will be a serial killer on parole, again accompanied by Juliette Lewis, who by that time were already a couple confirmed. With scenes of high dramatic load and intensity, although the film was not the most popular, it did receive good reviews for its performance. Brad Pitt is daring and dares to go out into other genres. Despite the low scores, I place it at very good. True Romance. This film became popular when it came to light that the writer of the script was none other than Quentin Tarantino. And watching the film, it is easy to realize the truth. The story is very good, under the direction of a good director like Tony Scott, director of Top Gun and Man and Fire, and with good actors like Val Kilmer, Christopher Walken, Christian Slater, and Gary Oldman. Here, Brad Pitt has a small role as an addict just accompanying the protagonist. With good scores, I undoubtedly place it at very good. The Favor. Another attempt by Brad Pitt in a romantic comedy. Without a doubt, it is a genre that he always wants to star in, and his time will come later. For now, he only plays the role of boyfriend of one of the protagonists, with few minutes on screen and few dialogues, nor her charm are enough to remove her from the bad category. Interview with the Vampire, an iconic film in Brad Pitt's filmography, although in my opinion it is not even close to his best performance. The story is original and approaches the vampire theme from another perspective and not the classic Dracula. Obviously, the one who shines here is Tom Cruise. Brad Pitt makes a worthy vampire. Good makeup and photography are enough to place it in very good. It is a film that helped him gain even more popularity. Legends of the Fall, another iconic film for Brad. Here he becomes the protagonist of this far-fetched story of the dramatic genre, although he returns to resume his role as a cute boy, but here rebellious and wild, with dramatic scenes and an at least striking story. He was able to show that he can star even if he is accompanied by great figures like Anthony Hopkins. This earned him his first nomination as Best Actor at the Golden Globe. I place it in good. 7. Spectacular movie that she stars alongside the superb Morgan Freeman and launches a young Gwyneth Paltrow to fame, who dazzled Brad so much that they had a 3-year courtship after recording together, under the direction of David Fincher, with whom she will do more projects in the future. This police suspense drama brings out all of Brad Pitt's acting skills, playing a detective with anger problems. He will go down in history as one of the films with the best endings, without a doubt. I place it in legendary. 12 Monkeys, another classic without a doubt, in a golden era in Brad Pitt's filmography. Although he is not the main protagonist, since that role goes to Bruce Willis. The realism of the script, despite being from the science fiction genre, is brutal, and it is also one of the pioneers in the time travel theme that made it a classic. Unfortunately, you can see the passing of the years in some aspects. There is a series from 2015, but it is quite bad. Here, Brad plays a revolutionary with mental problems in an excellent way that was enough for him to receive his first nomination as supporting actor at the Oscars and the second nomination and winner of Best Supporting Actor at the Golden Globe. Without a doubt, I place him in masterpiece. Sleepers, drama genre film. Here he accompanies enormous figures such as the super-established Robert De Niro, Dustin Hoffman, and Kevin Bacon. It tells the story of a group of young people who grew up in a violent and mafia-like family environment. After being sentenced to prison, a dedicated church priest, played by Robert De Niro, tries to save them from that world. Here, Brad is able to deliver a good performance as a traumatized thug, and the film is undoubtedly very good. The Devil's Own. Here, Brad Pitt plays an Irishman, and because of this, he had to act with that accent. Because of that, he received a lot of criticism. But you have to value the courage to try new things. Here, he plays his last role as a bad guy in a movie. Playing an extremist seeking revenge for the death of his parents, he is forced to betray the friendship of the person who takes him in. Harrison Ford, a veteran New York police officer, also of Irish origin. Very good police thriller. I place it in good. 7 Years in Tibet. Another classic, a film based on a true story from the memories of an Austrian mountaineer set during the Second World War. With an incredible script and landscapes, here we see Brad completely the protagonist, and he is already considered a first-line actor and not a supporting actor. After 17 films and at 34 years old, his time has come. The film is very good, spiritual, very raw, with an approach to war that makes us wonder how man's ambition can be destructive. I'm going to place it at very good. Meet Joe Black. Once again, he shares the screen with the great Anthony Hopkins. In a film with a somewhat flat performance, without complicated scenes, he takes a more romantic approach to a non-human being, as inevitable as he is charismatic, and reveals the legendary appearance of someone who was already considered one of the most attractive men in the world. Here I am going to place it in good. Fight Club, iconic movie and rightly so. Again under the direction of David Fincher, he once again plays a man with anger problems, dark and violent but charismatic, accompanying a superb Edward Norton. This movie became cult due to the incredible plot twist at the end. Highly recommended. Without a doubt, I place it in legendary. Curious fact, at a gala presentation of this film, Brad and Jennifer already confirmed their courtship. Snatch, a gangster genre movie with touches of black humor. Here Brad Pitt plays a gypsy fighter who is involved in the plot that links the entire film, which is the theft of a diamond and betting on street fights. He has no trouble standing out with a beastly flow, surrounded by great figures like Benicio del Toro, Stephen Graham, and Jason Statham. Brad Pitt's acting maturity is already notable, charismatic, and violent. Without a doubt, it is a film that I place it very good. The Mexican. Entering again into the romantic comedy, a genre that Brad loves, he does not miss the opportunity to take this script that promises a lot with the company of Julia Roberts, but never manages to see any chemistry through the screen. A poor story based on the search for some Mexican pistols trying to cope with their love relationship, the acting does not require much and did not have good scores. Without a doubt, I rate it as bad. Spy Game. A somewhat forgotten film, it was a failure at the box office, grossing only a few million. One can guess that 2001 was not the best year to release since, at that time, giants such as Harry Potter, The Lord of the Rings, Shrek, Dia Training, and Hannibal, among others. Here Brad Pitt stars alongside Robert Redford in a film with a rather far-fetched spy plot in the role of a CIA special agent, which was promoted as the union of two heartthrobs from two generations. Different, but great actors, without a doubt. With respectable scores, I place it at very good. Ocean's 11, beginning of a successful saga of the action, comedy, and adventure genre, accompanied by a great George Clooney, an iconic duet with a lot of charisma, and surrounded by great figures like Julia Roberts, Andy Garcia, and Matt Damon. In this case, the director does achieve that touch of comedy that Brad Pitt was looking for, and that suits him well without making a fool of himself. The film is a remake of 1960. It has great locations and a good entertaining script. It was very well received, and with excellent scores, I place it without a doubt at very good. Year 2002, and Brad Pitt, along with his wife, at that time Jennifer Aniston, decided to found their own production company, as many established actors do. This allows them to receive profits not only as an actor, but also box office revenue, and if it is a much better success. This is how Plan B Entertainment was born, and his first co-production was none other than Troy, the epic war genre blockbuster where he plays the renowned demigod Achilles, with a great physical change that requires him to gain muscle mass. His interpretation of him was decent, but not dazzling. The reception from the public was very good, but the acting criticism was immediate. The bar was quite high after successes like Gladiator. Even so, it was enough for him to be nominated for Best Actor from the Screen Actors Guild Award. With good scores, I place it in good. Ocean's 12. Second part of the saga, but it complies with the rule, second parts are never good. There are only two good second installments in the world of cinema, and everyone knows they are The Godfather and Back to the Future. With the same cast, adding a few more stars, the plot is similar. The duo with George Clooney saves the film a bit, but it didn't have good scores. I place it at good. Mr. and Mrs. Smith. We came to this famous film of the romantic comedy genre, not so much because of the script or because it was awarded. Here she shares the screen with none other than Angelina Jolie, who was chosen the most beautiful woman in the world in 2006 by People magazine and with good reason. The chemistry between them overflowed the screen, and rumors arose that would later come true. Brad Pitt ended his marriage to Jennifer Aniston in 2005, and just a month later, it was confirmed that Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie were a couple. The film is entertaining, fun, and with a good touch of humor, but it received a lot of criticism from the public who were more fans of his relationship with Jennifer Aniston. With decent scores, I placed it in good. Babel, an already mature Brad, accepts the script for this drama film that makes up a trilogy of films by director González Iñárritu. It is set in various locations such as Morocco, Japan, and Mexico, United States. With a high dramatic load and moving scenes, it does not stand out enough among so many stories at the same time. The film fulfilled what was expected and received various awards, including Best Supporting Actor at the Golden Globe and the Actors Union. Although I can't win any, and it is justified since it does not exceed 15 minutes on screen. With decent scores, I place it at very good. Ocean's 13. Third and final installment of the saga, already overexploited, it was a success to end it here. Same theme, same actors, but without female participation and adding a great Al Pacino. It is a good delivery. The passage of the years allowed them to incorporate more technology into the elaborate robberies they carry out. Very successful performance, the usual humor, and with acceptable scores, the public has a lot of affection for this saga. I place it at very good. The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. Here Brad Pitt joins this film and co-produces it with his production company. A film based on a book from the late 1800s that tells the real events about a gunfighter from the Wild West that the title of the film anticipates. In a supporting role with barely any minutes on screen, the true protagonist, and for whom all the nominations went, and with good reasons, was Casey Affleck. It is a highly recommended film. With good scores, I place it at very good. Burn After Reading. The charismatic duo returns with George Clooney in this genre that Brad Pitt likes so much, a spy comedy with touches of action. With a well-achieved style over the years and many attempts, you now have the formula. Directed by the Coen brothers, the script presents us with a tangled story of CIA spies with a first-class cast. The reviews and scores were very good for that reason. I place it at very good. The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. What can we say about this spectacular film, again directed by David Fincher, who had already directed it in Seven and Fight Club? He stars spectacularly alongside Cate Blanchett in a fantasy character that became iconic, confirming that he can deliver top-notch acting and storytelling added to his legendary aesthetic appearance. The film is as long as it is entertaining, far-fetched, but with the common thread that keeps us waiting for what will happen at the end. Nominated for Best Actor at the Oscars, the Golden Globe, and the Screen Actors Guild Awards, although he could not win any statuette since he had the misfortune of competing with Slumdog Millionaire and The Wrestler. With very good scores, I place it without hesitation in legendary. Inglourious Basterds. Brad never stops making hits, and this time from the hand of Quentin Tarantino. With a spectacular script and playing the role of a United States Special Lieutenant with a single mission, to make life impossible for the Germans. As charismatic as he was aggressive, he was an iconic character. Although those of us who saw the film know that the one who stole the show was Christopher Waltz with an outstanding performance. Here he adds a new statuette to his showcase for Best Cast of Actors, awarded by the Screen Actors Guild Awards. With an excellent review and scores, I place it without a doubt in legendary. The Tree of Life. Here, Brad Pitt accepts, together with his production company, this author's script, with a little-known director in leaving commercial films, with the beginning of the film so visually pleasing that it gets lost as the story develops. Here he stars in a family chronology with a high dramatic load. He plays a role worthy of it, a film to reflect on the upbringing and growth of children, and leaves a feeling of discomfort very well represented by the director. With good scores, I place it at very good. Moneyball. Even if you don't know anything about baseball, like me, a story of improvement of a small team surrounded by the rich and powerful that manages to reverse the worst of situations to achieve a historic milestone is enough motivation to see the movie. but even more so if it's based on a true story, that of the manager of the Oakland Athletics, Billy Beane, which happened in 2001. Very realistic, inspiring performance and accompanied by Jonah Hill, who provides that touch of humor just with his presence. It is a film that stops fans of this sport must be legendary. He received 3 nominations for Best Actor, although he failed to achieve any. With good scores, I place it without a doubt in masterpiece. Killing Them Softly. This is a very forgotten film. I had not seen it, and I was quite surprised by the darker and more aggressive side of Brad Pitt. It went unnoticed in a year where there were cinematic giants. Here he plays the role of a professional hitman where he will be involved in an unfortunate mafia robbery. With good scores, I place it in good. World War Z. Encouraging a little more science fiction, so scarce in its repertoire, and again with its production company, this film is a little underrated, although it is not a spectacular script, nor the first with a zombie theme. It approaches it in the most realistic way possible, and with a very protagonist, Brad, a United Nations investigator who tries to survive in incredible situations, shows us a visually very well-made world. A second part was about to be filmed, but it was canceled. Perhaps the successful launch of The Last of Us on HBO was one of the reasons for not saturating the same theme. With a good reception from the public, I placed it in good. The Counselor. Not even with a top-notch cast with Michael Fassbender, Cameron Diaz, Penelope Cruz, Javier Bardem, and Brad Pitt himself in a slightly more secondary role, nor with a good director like Ridley Scott, could they make this film. Perhaps the death of the director's brother and the postponement of the filming of the film could be one of the reasons for how little this classic story of drug trafficking between the United States and Mexico conveys, which is simply boring. With very low scores, it is undoubtedly located in bad. 12 Years a Slave. Brad Pitt, now almost 50 years old, simply decides to co-produce this mega successful film and take a slightly more secondary role, being the good guy who gives some hope to the true protagonist. The acting by Michael Fassbender and Chiwetel Ejiofor is simply superb. A very raw story about the slave trade of the year 1840 in New York City. With an excellent review and scores, I place it in masterpiece. And I don't place it higher in his filmography because his role is totally secondary. Here he was finally able to achieve the long-awaited Oscar, but not for his individual performance. It was for Best Film, and a nomination for Best Cast at the Screen Actors Guild Awards. Fury. Returning to the war theme set in the Second World War, and with the premise of the disadvantage compared to Germany in terms of armored vehicles, here he plays a seasoned United States sergeant dedicated to his profession. And the charisma of Brad Pitt will change us the perspective of a very strict and demanding superior with his subordinates to a war hero who we came to take enormous affection for. The tension and action is present from minute 1 to the end of the film. With good scores and being one of my favorites, I place it in masterpiece. By the Sea, forgotten and premonitory film of the end of the relationship with Angelina Jolie. It seems incredible, but this dramatic story about a couple trying to cope with a relationship was filmed during 2014, and a few months after the premiere, they ended their relationship. This novel was written and directed by Angelina herself. Attractive story of a writer and his wife taking a vacation in a hotel that will end up being the end of the marriage. With low scores because one expected more chemistry because they were a couple. Although perhaps there was already an internal crisis and her inexperience as a director led her to be placed in bad. The Big Short. Similarly to other films that Brad Pitt prefers to co-produce and take a more secondary role, if it exceeds 10 minutes on screen, it is a lot. With a style very similar to The Wolf of Wall Street and with a cast where Steve Carell and Christian Bale stand out a lot, this film is based on a real event that occurred during the United States crisis of 2008. An ideal film for fans of finance and investments. Maybe from the outside, it is a little difficult to understand the root of the problem. Here it received group nominations for Best Film at the Oscars and Best Cast at the Screen Actors Guild Awards. With the following scores, I place it at very good. Allied. Again playing a military man, in this case as a Canadian Air Force pilot. After working as an intelligence agent alongside a French special agent and having a romantic relationship, he will find himself involved in double espionage situations that will make us doubt everything while they try to save his marriage. Under the direction of an excellent Robert Zemeckis, with a great career and successes in his repertoire, he can achieve a thriller to match. With acceptable scores, I place it in good. War Machine. Here, Brad is encouraged to co-produce a film that was released for the Netflix platform and be the main protagonist. In this war satire, he plays a laureate and prestigious general of the North American Army, sent to resolve the conflict in Afghanistan, and it is based on a true event. I expected more from this film, and I was never able to understand what director David Machad intended by generating some uncomfortable silences that I sense were intended to provide some comedy, but never quite convince. At least the focus on how absurd war can be is well captured. The score is saved exclusively by Brad Pitt's charisma because the script is mediocre. I place it in good. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Once again, under the direction of the great Quentin Tarantino, and forming a duo that had never happened before, along with Leonardo DiCaprio, nothing could go wrong with a spectacular script and a first-class cast, including Margot Robbie. Playing the role of a retired fictitious stunt double and loyal friend of the former Hollywood star, played by DiCaprio. The display of charisma is brutal, and the word to define his character is stoic. The performance was of such a level that it earned him the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, the Screen Guild Actors Awards, and the Golden Globe after 20 years without receiving an individual award. Without a doubt, I place it in masterpiece. Ad Astra. Already a mature Brad Pitt co-produces and stars in this science fiction film, playing an astronaut emotionally detached due to the abandonment of his wife and father, who accepts a mission to Mars to try to find the whereabouts of the father, who seems to have information important about the existence of life in the universe. The film is a visual enjoyment, although the script does not demand it as much in the acting part and has an ending that raises some doubts. It was almost a failure at the box office, barely grossing $127 million on a budget of $100. With decent scores, I place it at very good. The Lost City. I might not include this small collaboration of no more than 10 minutes in this adventure comedy, but its name on the billboard always elevates the category, and the true protagonist, Sandra Bullock, knows how to do it. Here she plays a small role as a CIA special agent who fails to pull off a successful rescue and almost self-parodies many of her interpretations of her past. Without a doubt, with these scores and the low participation, I place it in bad. Bullet Train. This action comedy directed by David Leitch, who curiously was a stunt double for Brad Pitt himself in various films due to their physical resemblance, brings in his repertoire few but good references as director of John Wick and Deadpool 2. This film is the perfect union of the two. Previous experiences in a genre that Brad Pitt already handles perfectly and has shown that he likes to star in. In the role of a mature former hitman involved in a mission on a train to Tokyo, he will cross paths with more colleagues with the same objective. With acceptable scores, I place it in good. Babylon, last movie so far. At times I found it uncomfortable to watch. The monotonous and loud background music in the film makes you end up hating it. It's overwhelming and surreal. It is set in the 1920s during the beginning of black and white cinema without sound and its evolution. Here, Brad Pitt plays a successful alcoholic actor who realizes that his movies don't look as epic as he thought, very well accompanied by Margot Robbie. With acceptable scores, I place it in good. And here we finish the filmography and review a little of his life. In summary, there are 4 individual awards and 2 group awards obtained out of 14 nominations throughout 30 years of experience. An actor who did not have an easy start, who started late, one could say, debuted at the age of 24, making appearances as an extra. When there are cases of stars like Leonardo DiCaprio who started at 12, Brad was brave and risky. Having the advantage of his physical attractiveness, I always try not to abuse it. His ambition to demonstrate acting quality led him to explore various genres and find his style both in dramatic films and in the action comedies that he has always liked. I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave in the comments who would like us to review their filmography, actor, actress, or director. Don't forget to like and subscribe to him, and we'll see you in the next video.